Question 1. Which of the following shapes has the largest perimeter? The perimeter is the total distance around a shape. Let's consider each of the options in turn. So option A is a square. There are 4 equal sides, each side 8 centimeters, so the perimeter is 8 multiplied by 4, which equals 32 centimeters. Option B is a rectangle. Opposite sides are equal, so the perimeter is 3 multiplied by 2 plus 11 multiplied by 2, and that equals 28 centimeters. Option C is an equilateral triangle. There are 3 equal sides, each side 10 centimeters, so the perimeter is 10 multiplied by 3, which equals 30 centimeters. And option D is a trapezium. There are 2 equal sides, 4 centimeters each, so that's 4 multiplied by 2, plus the base, which is 9 centimeters, plus the top, which is 3 centimeters, and that equals 20 centimeters. So the answer is option A. Question 2. Consider the network diagram. What is the sum of the degrees of all the vertices in this network? The rule here is the sum of the degrees of all the vertices is equal to twice the number of edges. Let's count the number of edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 times 8 is equal to 16, so the sum of the degrees of all the vertices is equal to 16. Therefore, the answer is option D. Question 3. The stem and leaf plot shows the number of goals scored by a team in each of 10 netball games. What is the mode of this data set? The mode represents the score, or the set of scores, that occurs most often. With a stem and leaf plot, to find the mode, look for the leaves that repeat the most often, and in this case, it's the number 5. So to read this score, we take the stem, combine it with the leaf, so 2, 5 means that's a score of 25, and that occurs twice. So therefore, the answer is C, 25. Question 4. 3 years ago, an appliance was valued at $2,467. Its value has depreciated by 15% each year based on the declining balance method. What is its salvage value today to the nearest dollar? Declining balance depreciation is based on the compound interest formula, but rather than using a positive interest rate, we're going to use a negative interest rate as that represents the percentage loss in value each year. Now the salvage value is equal to the original value of the item, and in this case, the value of the item 3 years ago, $2,467, multiplied by 1 minus 15%, all raised to the power of 3. And the 3 represents the number of years that this item is being depreciated over. And that equals $1,515.046 ... Rounding that to the nearest dollar, that's equal to $1,515, and therefore the answer is option D. Question 5. Peter currently earns $21.50 per hour. His hourly wage will increase by 2.1% compounded each year for the next 4 years. What will his hourly wage be after 4 years? The key word is compounded, so we'll use the compound interest formula to determine Peter's wage in 4 years' time. The future value is equal to present value multiplied by 1 plus r to the power of n. Now the present value corresponds to Peter's current wage, which is $21.50 per hour. So that equals $21.50 multiplied by 1 plus 2.1%, so that's the annual rate of increase, to the power of 4 since it's over 4 years. And 1 plus 2.1% is equal to 1.021. So Peter's future wage, or his wage in 4 years' time, is equal to $21.50 multiplied by 1.021 to the power of 4. So therefore the answer is option B. Question 6. Suppose A equals B over 7, where B equals 22. What is the value of A, correct to 3 significant figures? Firstly, 22 divided by 7 is equal to 3.142857 and so on. Now rounding to 3 significant figures is done by starting with the first non-zero digit, which happens to be the 3, and then writing down the first 3 digits including that 3. In this case, it's 3.14. Now we also need to check the digit after the 4 and check that it's not 5 or more. And if that's the case, then the 4 will need to get rounded up. But it happens to be a 2, so this 4 just remains as a 4. So the answer is 3.14, which is option A. Question 7. The number of downloads of a song on each of 20 consecutive days is shown in the following graph. Which of the following graphs best shows the cumulative number of downloads up to and including each day? Looking at the graph that shows the number of downloads per day, the minimum number of downloads occur at day 1 and day 20, and the maximum number of downloads occur at day 10. So we would expect that in the cumulative frequency graph, the change in height between the consecutive days should be minimal between days 1 and 2 and days 19 and 20, and maximum between days 9, 10 and 11. And the option that shows that is option C. So we can see that between days 1 and 2, the change is minimal there. Between days 19 and 20, the change in height is minimal there. But in days 9, 10 and 11, that's where we get the greatest change. So the answer is option C. Question 8. On a test, Zach's mark corresponded to a Z-score of 2. The test scores had a mean of 63 and a standard deviation of 8. What was Zach's actual mark on the test? Let Zach's actual mark be x. Using the Z-score formula, solve for x. 2 equals x minus 63 divided by 8, where the Z-score is 2, the mean of the scores is 63, and the standard deviation of the scores is 8. Multiplying both sides by 8, we have 2 multiplied by 8 equals x minus 63. And adding 63 to both sides to make x the subject of the formula, we have 2 multiplied by 8 plus 63 equals x. Therefore, x equals 79. So Zach's actual mark was 79. Therefore, the answer is option D. Question 9. A student is thinking of a number. Let the number be x. When the student subtracts 8 from this number and multiplies the result by 3, the answer is 2 more than x. Which equation can be used to find x? Subtracting 8 from this number and multiplying the result by 3 is equivalent to 3 multiplied by x minus 8. Notice that the x minus 8 is in brackets because that needs to occur first, based on the wording of the problem. Now this is equal to 2 more than x. Now 2 more than x is just x plus 2 in the language of algebra. And these two algebraic expressions are equal. So combining those two, the answer is option C. 3 outside of x minus 8 is equal to x plus 2. Question 10. Which of the following best represents the graph of y equals 10 multiplied by 0.8 to the power of x? Two things to consider. Firstly, the y-intercept. We have a choice of 10 or 8. So to find the y-intercept, let x equal 0. So when x equals 0, y equals 10 multiplied by 0.8 to the power of 0, and 0.8 to the power of 0 is equal to 1, and that equals 10. So the two options at the moment are either A or C. So B and D are out. Next, consider the value of the base. Now, because the base is between 0 and 1, this is a decreasing exponential graph going from left to right. So therefore, out of A or C, option A shows a decreasing exponential graph with a y-intercept of 10. So therefore, the answer is option A. Question 11. There are 8 chocolates in a box. 3 have peppermint centers, P, and 5 have caramel centers, C. Kim randomly chooses a chocolate from the box and eats it. Sam then randomly chooses and eats one of the remaining chocolates. A partially completed probability tree is shown. What is the probability that Kim and Sam choose chocolates with different centers? This is a multi-stage event without replacement. In the first stage, there are 8 chocolates to choose from, 3 of which are peppermint, 5 of which are caramel. So the probability of choosing peppermint is 3 out of 8, and the probability of choosing caramel is 5 out of 8. In the second stage, there are 7 chocolates to choose from. The probability of choosing peppermint, given peppermint was chosen first, is 2 out of 7. The probability of choosing caramel, given peppermint was chosen first, is 5 out of 7. The probability of choosing peppermint, given caramel was chosen first, is 3 out of 7. And the probability of choosing caramel, given caramel was chosen first, is 4 out of 7. Now we're interested in the probability that the 2 chocolates chosen were of different centers, and that can occur in any order. So the 2 outcomes that we're interested in is peppermint caramel or caramel peppermint. So the probability of peppermint then caramel is 3 out of 8 multiplied by 5 out of 7, which equals 15 out of 56. And the probability of caramel then peppermint is equal to 5 out of 8 multiplied by 3 out of 7, which equals 15 out of 56. So the probability that the 2 chocolates chosen were of different centers is equal to the sum of these 2 probabilities. So that's equal to 15 out of 56 plus 15 out of 56, which equals 30 out of 56, and that simplifies to 15 out of 28. So therefore the answer is option D. Question 12. A block of land is represented by the shaded region on the number plane. All measurements are in kilometers. Which of the following is the approximation for the area of this block of land in square kilometers using 2 applications of the trapezoidal rule? The distance between the parallel sides is 6 kilometers, and the length of each parallel side is 1.2 kilometers, 2 kilometers, and 1.4 kilometers. So applying the trapezoidal rule, we have the area of this block of land is approximately equal to 6 over 2 multiplied by 1.2 plus 2 plus 6 over 2 multiplied by 2 plus 1.4, and the area is approximately 19.8 square kilometers, so the answer is option B. Question 13. The time taken to clean a warehouse varies inversely with the number of cleaners employed. It takes 8 cleaners 60 hours to clean a warehouse. Working at the same rate, how many hours would it take 10 cleaners to clean the same warehouse? Applying the inverse variation formula, 60 is equal to k divided by 8. So we need to determine the value of k. Multiplying both sides by 8 and making k the subject of the formula, we get k is equal to 480. Now this value represents the number of hours it would take one cleaner to clean the warehouse at the same rate. Now that we have the value of k, we can apply the same inverse variation formula to calculate the amount of time it would take 10 cleaners to clean this warehouse at the same rate. T is equal to 480 divided by 10, now that we have the value of k, and 480 divided by 10 is equal to 48. So it would take 10 cleaners 48 hours to clean the warehouse at the same rate. So therefore the answer is option B. Question 14. Consider the diagram below. What is the true bearing of A from B? The key word is from. A from B implies the observer is at point B, initially facing north, and then turning a certain number of degrees around until they face point A. And that number of degrees is the bearing of A from B, which is indicated here by angle Y. So I'm going to draw a north-south axis going through point B. I'm going to extend the axis until it strikes this east-west axis here. This is AE. And you can see that there's a right angle triangle that's been formed. Now, in order to determine angle Y, I need to determine angle X first. So using the angle sum of a triangle, angle X is equal to 180 minus 90 minus 25, and that equals 65 degrees. Then to get angle Y, we can use the angles at a point add up to 360 degrees, or angles in a revolution add up to 360 degrees. So this angle Y plus angle X equals 360 degrees. So to get angle Y, that's equal to 360 minus 65 degrees, and that equals 295 degrees. So therefore, the answer is option D. Question 15. A total of 11,400 people entered a running race. The ratio of professional runners to amateurs was 3 to 16. All the professional runners completed the race while 600 of the amateurs did not complete the race. For those who completed the race, what is the ratio in simplest form of professional runners to amateurs? The sum of the terms of the ratio is equal to 19. The number of professional runners can be worked out using the unitary method by taking 11,400, dividing that by 19 and then multiplying that by 3, and that equals 1,800. The number of amateur runners is equal to 11,400 minus the number of professional runners, and that equals 9,600. The number of amateur runners who completed the race is equal to 9,600 minus 600, since we're told that 600 amateur runners did not complete the race, and that's equal to 9,000. The ratio then of the number of professional runners to the number of amateur runners who completed the race is equal to 1,800 to 9,000. And simplifying this ratio, that equals 1 to 5. So therefore, the answer is option B. Question 16. The volume, V, of a sphere is given by the formula V equals 4 over 3 multiplied by pi r cubed, where r is the radius of the sphere. A tank consists of the bottom half of a sphere of radius 2 meters, as shown. Find the volume of the tank in cubic meters, correct to one decimal place. The formula 4 over 3 multiplied by pi multiplied by r cubed gives the volume of a sphere. To find the volume of a hemisphere or half a sphere, it's half multiplied by 4 over 3 multiplied by pi multiplied by r cubed. And in this case, r, which represents the radius of the hemisphere, is 2. So the volume is equal to half multiplied by 4 over 3 multiplied by pi multiplied by 2 cubed, which equals 16.7551 and so on. And rounding that answer to one decimal place, that equals 16.8 cubic meters. Question 17. The 5-number summary of a dataset is given. Lowest score equals 1, lower quartile Q1 equals 4, median Q2 equals 7, upper quartile Q3 equals 10, highest score equals 20. Is 20 an outlier? Justify your answer with calculations. The first thing we need to work out is the interquartile range, and that's given by the formula Q3 minus Q1, or upper quartile minus lower quartile, 10 minus 4 equals 6. The next thing we need to work out is the upper boundary for an outlier, and that's given by the formula interquartile range multiplied by 1.5 plus the upper quartile. And given the 5-number summary, we have the interquartile range is 6, which we've just worked out, multiplied by 1.5, plus quartile 3, which is 10, and that equals 19. The final thing we need to do is to check whether the highest score of 20 exceeds the upper boundary for the outlier. And of course it does. 20 is greater than 19, so therefore 20 is an outlier. Question 18. The fuel consumption for a car is 6.7 litres per 100 kilometres. On a road trip, the car travels a distance of 1,560 kilometres and the fuel cost is $1.45 per litre. What is the total fuel cost for this trip? The first step is to determine the amount of fuel consumed for the journey. You can work that out by taking the total distance of the journey, 1,560 kilometres, divided by 100, multiplied by 6.7, and that equals 104.52 litres. Alternatively, you can apply the unitary method, which works out the amount of fuel used per kilometre and then multiply that by the number of kilometres travelled. So that's 6.7 divided by 100 multiplied by 1,560, and that also equals 104.52 litres. The next step is to determine the fuel cost. So we know how much fuel was consumed for the journey, 104.52 litres, multiplied by the cost per litre, which is $1.45 per litre, and that equals $151.554, and rounding that to the nearest cent, that equals $151.55. Question 19. Adam purchased some office furniture 5 years ago. It depreciated by $2,300 each year based on the straight line method of depreciation. The salvage value of the furniture is now $7,500. Find the initial value of the office furniture. N equals 5 years, and this represents the number of years the office furniture is being depreciated over. S5 represents the salvage value of the office furniture after 5 years of depreciation, and that equals $7,500. The rate of depreciation is $2,300 per year. What we're asked to find is V0, which represents the initial value of the office furniture. So we're going to solve for V0 the equation salvage value is equal to the initial value minus the rate of depreciation per year multiplied by the number of years of depreciation. So 7,500 is equal to V0 minus 2,300 multiplied by 5. So adding 2,300 multiplied by 5 to both sides of the equation, we have 7,500 plus 2,300 multiplied by 5 equals V0. And evaluating the left-hand side of the equation, we get V0 is equal to 19,000. So therefore, the initial value of the office furniture is $19,000. Question 20. City A is in Sweden and is located at 58 degrees north, 16 degrees east. Sydney in Australia is located at 33 degrees south, 151 degrees east. Robert lives in Sydney and needs to give an online presentation to his colleagues in City A starting at 5 p.m. Thursday, local time in Sweden. What time and day in Sydney should Robert start his presentation? It is given that 15 degrees equals 1 hour time difference. Ignore daylight saving. The time difference between two locations is based on the difference in their longitudes, not their latitudes. So we'll consider the longitudes of City A and Sydney. The longitude of City A is 16 degrees east, and the longitude of Sydney is 151 degrees east. And the further east a location, the further ahead in time it is compared to any locations to the left of it or to the west. This can be visualized on a number line where 0 degrees represents the longitude of the prime meridian. West is to the left, east is to the right. City A is 16 degrees east and Sydney is 151 degrees east. Now the difference in longitude is 151 degrees minus 16 degrees, which equals 135 degrees. And it is given that every 15 degrees difference in longitude is equivalent to 1 hour time difference. So the time difference is found by taking 135, dividing it by 15, and that gives 9 hours. So Sydney is 9 hours ahead of City A. Now the time in Sydney is found by taking the time at City A, which is 5 p.m, and notice that 24-hour time is being used. And adding 9 hours to 5 p.m, that equals 2,600 hours. Now that doesn't make sense since the time goes from 0000 to 2400. So this means that this is 2 hours past midnight in Sydney. So interpreting this result, this means that Robert should start the presentation at 2 a.m. on Friday in Sydney. Question 21. Julie invests $12,500 in a savings account. Interest is paid at a fixed monthly rate. At the end of each month, after the monthly interest is added, Julie makes a deposit of $500. Julie has created a spreadsheet to show the activity in her savings account. The details for the first 6 months are shown. By finding the monthly rate of interest, complete the final row above for the 7th month. Row 1 of the table can be used to determine the monthly interest rate. $12,500 multiplied by the monthly interest rate is equal to $18.75. Expressing that as an equation, 12,500 multiplied by R equals 18.75. Solving for R is equal to 18.75 divided by 12,500, multiplying that by 100 to convert the answer into a percentage, we get R, the monthly interest rate, is equal to 0.15%. Now the amount in the account at the beginning of the month for month 7 is just carried over from the amount in the account at the end of month 6. So the first box here is $15,624.20. To determine the interest for month 7, we take this value here, $15,624.20, and multiply that by 0.15%, and that equals $23.44, correct to the nearest cent. Now, the amount in the account at the end of month 7 is found by taking the amount in the account at the beginning of the month, so $15,624.20, plus the interest for the month, so that's $23.44, plus the $500 deposit, and that equals $16,147.64. Question 22. The table shows the income tax rates for the 2020-2021 financial year. William has a gross annual salary of $84,000. He has allowable tax deductions of $900 for home office equipment and $474 for union fees. William must also pay a Medicare levy of 2% of his taxable income. Calculate the total tax payable by William, including the Medicare levy. The income tax payable and the Medicare levy are based on the taxable income. William's taxable income is equal to his gross salary minus his deductions. So $84,000 minus $900 minus $474 is equal to $82,626. Now, the income tax payable is determined by using this row, the row with the asterisk of the tax table, since his taxable income lies between $45,001 and $120,000. And the tax is $5,092 plus 32.5 cents for each dollar over $45,000. Now, this can be interpreted as 32.5% of the difference between his taxable income and $45,000. So it can be written like this: $5,092 plus 32.5% multiplied by the difference between his taxable income and $45,000. And that equals $17,320.45. Now, the Medicare levy is 2% of his taxable income. So that's equal to 2% multiplied by $82,626, and that equals $1,652.52. And the total tax payable is found by adding this value with this value, so A and B, and that equals $17,320.45 plus $1,652.52, and that equals $18,972.97. Question 23. The network diagram shows the travel times in minutes along roads connecting a number of different towns. Part A. Draw a minimum spanning tree for this network and determine its length. There are 8 edges that need to be connected, which means 7 edges need to be chosen, either using Kruskal's algorithm or Prim's algorithm. I've chosen Kruskal's algorithm for this solution. The highlighted edges are the edges that I've chosen from the lowest weight to the highest weight, and the numbers here that are circled refer to the order in which the edges were chosen. So I've chosen this edge here between Minor Town and Wall Town, so that's number 1. This edge I've chosen as number 2. Number 3 is here. Number 4 is here. Number 5 is here. Number 6 is here. And number 7 is here. Now, drawing the minimum spanning tree might look something like that. And the length of the minimum spanning tree is just the sum of the edges that were chosen. And that equals 160 minutes. Part B. How long does it take to travel from Queenstown to Underwood using the fastest route? Part B was answered by inspection, and it does not necessarily have anything to do with Part A. It's important to note that the minimum spanning tree does not necessarily give the minimum path or the shortest path between any 2 vertices. Referring to the original network diagram, we can see that there's many ways to go from Queenstown to Underwood. And you need to select the path that is shortest, or the one that takes the least amount of time. So we can either go via Kingsville, so Queenstown, Kingsville, Underwood, that's 30 plus 65 is 95 minutes. And there are other ways as well to go from Queenstown to Underwood. So by inspection, Queenstown to Minortown to Underwood is 65 minutes, so 45 plus 20. And that gives the fastest route. So Queenstown, Minortown, Underwood, 45 plus 20 is equal to 65 minutes. Question 24. A population, P, is to be modelled using the function P equals 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of T, where T is the time in years. Part A. What is the initial population? The initial population can be found by substituting T equals 0 into the function P equals 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of 0. So the initial population is equal to 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of 0, and that equals to 2000. So therefore, the initial population is 2000. Part B. Find the population after 5 years. Part B is answered in a similar way to Part A. Substitute T equals 5 into the function P equals 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of T. So the population after 5 years is equal to 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of 5, and that equals 4976.64. Rounding that to the nearest whole number, that's equal to 4977. So therefore, the population is 4977 after 5 years. Part C. On the axes below, draw the graph of the population against time, showing the points at t equals 0 and at t equals 5. The function p equals 2000 multiplied by 1.2 to the power of t is an exponential function because the independent variable t is the index. The base is greater than 1, which means from left to right, the graph should be getting steeper and steeper. Now the 2 points that need to be shown, t equals 0 and t equals 5, correspond to the initial population and the population after 5 years. And these are shown here as 2 pairs of coordinates. Question 25. A rectangular sports ground has been drawn to scale on a 1 centimetre grid as shown. The scale used is 1 to 3000. Kerry took 12 minutes to walk around the perimeter of this sports ground. What was Kerry's average speed in kilometres per hour? This rectangle is a scaled representation of the sports ground. Every centimetre on the rectangle corresponds to 3000 centimetres in reality. Now the perimeter of the rectangle is equal to 26 centimetres, so that's just the distance around. The perimeter of the sports ground can be found by taking the perimeter of the rectangle and multiplying it by the scale, 1 to 3000. So 26 multiplied by 3000 is equal to 78,000 centimetres. Now Kerry's average speed is 78,000 centimetres per 12 minutes, since Kerry took 12 minutes to walk around the perimeter of this sports ground. But we want Kerry's average speed in kilometres per hour. Now converting 78,000 centimetres into kilometres, we can do it in 2 steps or in 1 step. So dividing it by 100 converts 78,000 centimetres into metres, then dividing it again by 1,000 converts the metres into kilometres. So 78,000 centimetres is equivalent to 0.78 kilometres. Now 12 minutes needs to be converted into hours. So dividing 12 by 60, 12 minutes is equal to 0.2 hours. Hence, Kerry's speed in kilometres and hours is 0.78 kilometres per 0.2 hours. But we want Kerry's average speed in kilometres per hour or per 1 hour. So dividing both terms of the rate by 0.2, 0.78 divided by 0.2 is equal to 3.9. Therefore, Kerry's average speed is 3.9 kilometres per hour. Question 26. Nina plans to invest $35,000 for 1 year. She is offered 2 different investment options. Option A, interest is paid at 6% per annum compounded monthly. Option B, interest is paid at R% per annum simple interest. Part A, calculate the future value of Nina's investment after 1 year if she chooses option A. Option A is a lump sum compound interest investment. The future value is equal to the present value multiplied by 1 plus R to the power of n, where the present value is the principal or the lump sum investment. The present value is equal to 35,000. N equals 12 since the investment's over 1 year and the compounding is monthly. And R is equal to 6% divided by 12, so R is equal to 0.5% per month. Substituting those values into the future value formula, we get future value is equal to 35,000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.5%, all to the power of 12, and that equals $37,158.72, correct to the nearest cent. Part B. Find the value of R in option B that would give Nina the same future value after 1 year as for option A. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Option B is a simple interest investment. Our first step is to determine the interest earned from Part A. And that's equal to the future value minus the present value, so $37,158.72 minus $35,000, and that equals $2,158.72. Our next step is to apply the simple interest formula, I equals P times R times N, where I is equal to 2,158.72, P is equal to 35,000, and N equals 1 since the investment is over 1 year. So we're going to solve for the equation I equals PRN and substituting in these values. So 2,158.72 is equal to 35,000 multiplied by R multiplied by 1. And multiplying the right hand side by 1 doesn't change the value of the right hand side. Dividing the left hand side by 35,000 to make R the subject, we have 2,158.72 divided by 35,000 is equal to R. Evaluating the left hand side, we get R is equal to 0.06167771429. Converting that to a percentage, we need to multiply this value by 100, so R% is equal to 0.06167771429 multiplied by 100, which equals to 6.16777 ... and rounding this value to 2 decimal places, that equals 6.17% per annum. Question 27. The price and the power consumption of 2 different brands of television are shown. The average cost for electricity is 25 cents per kilowatt hour. A particular family watches an average of 3 hours of television per day. Part A. The annual cost of electricity for television A for this family is $48.18. For this family, what is the difference in the annual cost of electricity between television A and television B? The first step is to calculate the electricity cost for television B. The power of television B is 160 watts, which needs to be converted into kilowatts. So dividing this value by 1,000, this is equivalent to 0.16 kilowatts. Now the average cost for electricity is 25 cents per kilowatt hour, but this needs to be expressed in dollars per kilowatt hour. So taking this value and dividing it by 100, this is equivalent to $0.25 per kilowatt hour. Now the electricity cost for television B is equal to 0.16 kilowatts multiplied by $0.25 per kilowatt hour, multiplied by the number of hours a television is run per day, which is 3, multiplied by the number of days in the year, which is 365. And that's equal to $43.80. Now there is another way of determining this. If we use the fraction 160 over 176, so that's the fraction of the power that television B uses compared to television A. So 160 over 176 multiplied by $48.18. So that's the cost of running television A, and that equals $43.80. Now the difference in electricity cost is equal to the cost of running television A minus the cost of running television B, and that's equal to $4.38. Part B. For this family, how many years will it take for the total cost of buying and using television A to be equal to the total cost of buying and using television B? Comparing both televisions, television B is more expensive to buy but cheaper to run compared to television A. We need to work out the price difference between both televisions. We also know that it costs $4.38 per year more to run television A compared to television B. Now the price difference is equal to $921.90 minus $900 is equal to $21.90. The number of years to break even is equal to $21.90 divided by $4.38, and that's equal to 5 years. So therefore, the total cost of buying and using both televisions is equal after 5 years. Question 28. A salesperson is interested in the relationship between the number of bottles of lemonade sold per day and the number of hours of sunshine in the day. The diagram shows the dataset used in the investigation and the least squares regression line. Part A. Find the equation of the least squares regression line relating to the dataset. The equation of the least squares regression line is in the form y equals mx plus c, where m represents the gradient of the line and c represents the y-intercept. From the graph, we can see that the y-intercept's equal to 2, so c is equal to 2. To find the gradient, choose any 2 points and then apply the formula rise over run to determine the gradient. Choose 2 points that are far enough apart from each other to give a reasonable estimate of the gradient. I've chosen the y-intercept here, and I've chosen this point here, which has a y-coordinate of approximately 31, so somewhere halfway between 30 and 32, or close enough to. Now the gradient's equal to rise over run, which is the difference in the y-coordinates over the difference in the x-coordinates. So the rise is 31 minus 2, that goes in the numerator. The run is 9 minus 0, 9 minus 0 is 9, so that goes in the denominator. So the gradient's equal to 29 over 9. So therefore, the equation of the least squares regression line is y equals 29 over 9x plus 2, or y equals 3.22x plus 2, quoting the gradient correct to 2 decimal places. Part B. Suppose the 6th data point was collected on a day which had 10 hours of sunshine. On that day, 45 bottles of lemonade were sold. What would happen to the gradient found in Part A? The coordinates of the 6th data point is 10, 45. The gradient will increase since the point 10, 45 lies above the original regression line. Referring to the original regression line, this point here is 10, 32. 10, 45 will be well above, so the gradient will increase. Question 29. Solve x plus x minus 1 over 2 equals 9. The first step is to eliminate the fraction by multiplying every term by 2. It helps to enclose the numerator in its own set of brackets. Now x multiplied by 2 is 2x. X minus 1 all over 2 multiplied by 2 is x minus 1, and they're enclosed in brackets. 9 multiplied by 2 is 18. Next, expand the brackets. And there's not much that needs to be done there apart from just removal of the brackets. So 2x plus x minus 1 is equal to 18. Collecting the like terms, 2x plus x is 3, and adding 1 to both sides, 18 plus 1 is 19. Finally, dividing both sides by 3, we have x is equal to 19 over 3. Now we can check the solution by substituting 19 over 3 for x in the left-hand side of the equation. So checking the left-hand side equals 9. 19 over 3 plus 19 over 3 minus 1 all over 2. Evaluating that expression does equal 9, which equals the right-hand side. So we are confident that this is, in fact, the correct answer. Question 30. Ariana owns 1,500 shares in a company. The market price for each share is $27. Ariana's total dividend from these shares is $810. Calculate the dividend yield for her shares. The first step is to calculate the dividend per share. $810 divided by 1,500 shares is equal to 54 cents per share. To calculate the dividend yield, we take the dividend per share, 54 cents, and divide it by the market price for each share, which is $27, and then multiply that result by 100, and that equals 2%. Question 31. Present value interest factors for an annuity of $1 for various interest rates, R, and numbers of periods, N, are given in the table. A bank lends Martina $500,000 to purchase a home with interest charge at 1.5% per annum compounding monthly. She agrees to repay the loan by making equal monthly repayments over a 30-year period. How much should the monthly payment be in order to pay off the loan in 30 years? Give your answer correct to the nearest cent. To determine the present value interest factor to reference, we need to find the interest rate per period as a decimal and the number of compounding periods over the life of the loan. Interest is charged at 1.5% per annum compounding monthly. So the monthly interest rate is found by taking 1.5% and dividing it by 12. And R is equal to 0.00125 as a decimal. The number of compounding periods N is equal to 30 years multiplied by 12 compounding periods per year. N is equal to 360. So the present value interest factor to reference is this value here, from column 0.00125 and row 360. The monthly payment is found by taking the loan amount, which is $500,000, and dividing it by the present value interest factor, 289.75411. And that equals $1,725.60. Question 32. A right-angled triangle XYZ is cut out from a semicircle with center O. The length of the diameter XZ is 16 centimeters and angle YXZ is equal to 30 degrees, as shown in the diagram. Part A. Find the length of XY in centimeters, correct to 2 decimal places. In right-angled triangle XYZ, XY is the adjacent side to angle theta and XZ is the hypotenuse. Using right-angle trigonometry, that means cos of 30 degrees is equal to XY divided by 16. That's adjacent over the hypotenuse. Multiplying both sides by 16 to make XY the subject of the formula, we have 16 multiplied by cos of 30 degrees is equal to XY. Evaluating the left-hand side, we have 16 multiplied by cos of 30 is equal to 13.8564 and so on. And rounding this value to 2 decimal places, XY is equal to 13.86 centimeters. Part B. Hence, find the area of the shaded region in square centimeters, correct to 1 decimal place. To work out the area of the semicircle, we need the radius of the semicircle first. The diameter is 16 centimeters and the radius is half the diameter. So the radius of the semicircle is 8 centimeters. Now the area of the semicircle is given by the formula half multiplied by pi r squared, where r is 8 centimeters. So that's equal to half multiplied by pi multiplied by 8 squared, and that equals 100.5309649 square centimeters. The area of triangle XYZ is found using the area rule for triangles. That's half AB multiplied by sine C. So that's equal to half multiplied by 13.86 multiplied by 16 multiplied by sine of 30 degrees. And that's equal to 55.44 square centimeters. The area of the shaded region is the difference between the area of the semicircle and the area of the triangle. So that's equal to 100.5309649 minus 55.44, and that's equal to 45.0909649, and rounding this value to 1 decimal place, that's equal to 45.1 square centimeters. Question 33. For a sample of 17 inland towns in Australia, the height above sea level, x meters, and the average maximum daily temperature, y degrees Celsius, were recorded. The graph shows the data as well as a regression line. The equation of the regression line is y equals 29.2 minus 0.011x. The correlation coefficient is r equals negative 0.494. Part A, I. By using the equation of the regression line, predict the average maximum daily temperature in degrees Celsius for a town that is 540 meters above sea level. Give your answer correct to one decimal place. Substituting x equals 540 into the equation of the regression line, y equals 29.2 minus 0.011 multiplied by x, y is equal to 29.2 minus 0.011 multiplied by 540, and that equals 23.3 degrees Celsius, correct to one decimal place. Part A, II. The gradient of the regression line is negative 0.011. Interpret the value of this gradient in the given context. Interpreting the value of this gradient in the given context, for every 1 meter increase in height above sea level, the average maximum daily temperature drops by 0.011 degrees Celsius for heights within the range of data specified. Part B. The graph below shows the relationship between the latitude, x, degrees south, and the average maximum daily temperature, y degrees Celsius, for the same 17 towns, as well as a regression line. The equation of the regression line is y equals 45.6 minus 0.683x. The correlation coefficient is r equals negative 0.897. Another inland town in Australia is 540 metres above sea level. Its latitude is 28 degrees south. Which measurement, height above sea level or latitude, would be better to use to predict this town's average maximum daily temperature? Give a reason for your answer. Comparing the correlation coefficients for latitude and height above sea level, it would be better to use latitude since its correlation coefficient of r equals negative 0.897 is strong, compared with the correlation coefficient for height above sea level, which is r equals negative 0.494, indicating a moderate correlation. Question 34. In a park, the only animals are goannas and emus. Let x be the number of goannas and let y be the number of emus. The number of goannas plus the number of emus in the park is 31. Hence, x plus y equals 31. Each goanna has 4 legs and each emu has 2 legs. In total, the emus and goannas have 76 legs. By writing another relevant equation and graphing both equations on the grid on the following page, find the number of goannas and the number of emus in the park. There are x goannas and y emus in the park. Hence, the total number of legs is equal to 4x plus 2y, since each goanna has 4 legs, each emu has 2 legs. In total, the emus and goannas have 76 legs. Hence, 4x plus 2y equals 76. Dividing each of these terms by 2, we get 2x plus y equals 38. Next, we need to graph the two equations. So we need to graph x plus y equals 31 and 2x plus y equals 38. Rearranging these equations into y equals mx plus c form, we'll be graphing y equals 31 minus x and y equals 38 minus 2x on the same set of axes. The graphs of y equals 31 minus x and y equals 38 minus 2x are straight lines. One way to graph these lines is to find two convenient points and then draw the line that includes those points. So for y equals 31 minus x, I found the y-intercept of 31. That's easy enough to see there by inspection. To find the x-intercept, I let y equals 0, so 0 equals 31 minus x, and then solve the equation for x. So x equals 31. Likewise, for y equals 38 minus 2x, the y-intercept is 38 by inspection, and the x-intercept is found by letting y equals 0, so 0 equals 38 minus 2x, therefore x equals 19. Graphing these two lines, and looking for the point of intersection. The point of intersection occurs at 7, 24, so x equals 7, y equals 24, noting that x represents the number of goannas and y represents the number of emus. Hence, there are 7 goannas and 24 emus in the park. Question 35. A publisher sells a book for $10. At this price, 5,000 copies of the book will be sold and the revenue raised will be 5,000 multiplied by 10 equals $50,000. The publisher is considering increasing the price of the book. For every dollar the price of the book is increased, the publisher will sell 50 fewer copies of the book. If the publisher charges 10 plus X dollars for each book, a quadratic model for the revenue raised, R, from selling the books is R equals negative 50x squared plus 4,500x plus 50,000. A graph of this quadratic model for revenue is shown. A dashed line is used for values of x which are not relevant to the practical context of this problem. Part A. By first finding a suitable value of x, find the price the publisher should charge for each book to maximize the revenue raised from sales of the book. This is a concave down parabola where the vertex represents maximum revenue. The x-coordinate of the vertex is found by taking the average of the two x-intercepts, so the average of negative 10 and 100. So negative 10 plus 100 in brackets divided by 2 equals 45. When x equals 45, the price of each book is 10 plus 45, which equals 55. So therefore, the publisher should charge $55 per book to maximize revenue. Part B. Find the value of the intercept of the parabola with the vertical axis. The question is asking for the y-intercept, and that occurs when x equals 0. Substituting x equals 0 into the equation, we get r is equal to negative 50 multiplied by 0 squared plus 4,500 multiplied by 0 plus 50,000. The terms in x disappear and we're left with the constant term. So therefore, the y-intercept is 50,000. Which is this point here. Question 36. A project requires completion of 11 tasks A, B, C through to K. A network diagram for the project giving the completion time for each task in minutes is shown. Part A. Find the minimum time to complete the project. The minimum time to complete the project is found by completing the earliest start time, or EST, for each task. So starting here, after task A, we're at the 5-minute mark. After task B, we're at the 8-minute mark. 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. Now 14 plus 3 is 17, but 8 plus 6 is 14. We write the higher of the two numbers when determining the earliest start time. Now from this point, 17 plus 5 is 22, 17 plus 6 is 23. Again, there are two ways to get to this vertex, either 22 plus 8, which is 30, or 23 plus 3, which is 26. We write the higher of the two numbers, which is 30. 30 plus 10 is equal to 40, and we're at the finish. So the minimum completion time is 40 minutes. Part B. State the critical path for this project. The critical path for this project may be found by completing the latest start time, or LST, for each task. Starting from the finish and working backwards, from the 40-minute mark, subtracting 10, we get 30. 30 minus 8 is 22. 30 minus 3 is 27. Now, when there are two ways to get to a vertex, we write the lower of the two numbers. So it's the opposite of finding the EST for each task. 22 minus 5 is 17. 27 minus 6 is 21, and the lower of the two numbers is 17. 17 minus 6 is 11. 17 minus 3 is 14. 14 minus 2 is 12. 12 minus 7 is 5. And 5 minus 5 is 0. The critical path is found by locating the vertices where the numbers, top and bottom, are identical. and I've highlighted them here. So the critical path is A, C, D, E, G, J, and K. Part C. A new task X is to be added to the project. The earliest starting time for X is 17 minutes, the latest starting time for X is 18 minutes, and X has a completion time of 12 minutes. Add task X to the given network diagram above and state the float time for this task. Task X is not on the critical path because its earliest starting time is different to its latest starting time. The earliest starting time for task X is 17 minutes, and that gives us a clue as to where to locate task X on the network diagram. Also note that task X has a completion time of 12 minutes. Here is task X on the network diagram located between this vertex and this vertex. The float time for task X can be found by taking the LST of task K, subtracting from that value the completion time of task X and the EST, or the earliest start time for task X. So 30 minus 12 minus 17 is equal to 1. Therefore, the float time for task X is 1 minute. Question 37. The diagram shows a triangle ABC where AC equals 25 centimeters, BC equals 16 centimeters, angle BAC equals 28 degrees, and angle ABC is obtuse. Find the size of the obtuse angle ABC correct to the nearest degree. There is a known angle side pair, so the sine rule will be used. Sine of B over 25 is equal to sine of 28 degrees over 16. Multiplying both sides by 25 to make sine of B the subject of the formula, we get sine of B is equal to 25 multiplied by sine of 28 degrees over 16. Taking the inverse sine of both sides to make angle B the subject of the formula, we get acute angle B is equal to inverse sine of 25 multiplied by sine of 28 degrees over 16. And that equals 47 degrees and 11 minutes correct to the nearest minute. To obtain obtuse angle ABC, we subtract 47 degrees and 11 minutes from 180 degrees. So obtuse angle B is equal to 180 degrees minus 47 degrees and 11 minutes, and that equals 132 degrees and 49 minutes, which rounds to 133 degrees, correct to the nearest degree. Question 38. A random variable is normally distributed with mean 0 and standard deviation 1. The table gives the probability that this random variable lies between 0 and z for different values of z. The probability values given in the table for different values of z are represented by the shaded area in the following diagram. Part A. Using the table, show that the probability that a value from a random variable that is normally distributed with mean 0 and standard deviation 1 is greater than 0.3 is equal to 0.3821. The area under the normal distribution above z equals 0 is equal to 0.5. The probability that z is greater than 0.3 is equal to 0.5 minus the probability that z lies between 0 and 3. Referring to the table, where z is equal to 0.3, the probability is 0.1179, which is represented as the shaded area in the diagram. So the probability that z is greater than 0.3 is equal to 0.5 minus 0.1179, and that equals 0.3821 as required. Part B. Birth weights are normally distributed with a mean of 3,300 grams and a standard deviation of 570 grams. By first calculating a z-score, find how many babies out of 1,000 born are expected to have a birth weight greater than 3,471 grams. The z-score corresponding to a birth weight of 3,471 grams may be found using the z-score formula. 3,471 minus the mean birth weight of 3,300 divided by the standard deviation of the birth weights, which is 570. And that equals 0.3. Now the probability that z is greater than 0.3 is equal to 0.3821, and that was found in part A. 1,000 multiplied by 0.3821 is equal to 382.1, which equals 382, correct to the nearest whole number. So therefore, out of 1,000 babies born, 382 are expected to have a birth weight greater than 3,471 grams. Question 39. The diagram shows a compass radial survey of the field A, B, C, D. Part A. Triangle COB has an area of 466 square metres. Find the size of acute angle COB, correct to the nearest degree. In triangle COB, let the unknown angle COB equal theta. By the area rule of a triangle, the area 466 is equal to half times 28 times 35 times sine of theta. Dividing the left-hand side by half and then by 28 and by 35 to make sine of theta the subject of the formula, we have 466 divided by half divided by 28 divided by 35 is equal to sine of theta. Evaluating the left-hand side, we have sine of theta is equal to 0.951,020,4082. And taking the inverse sine of both sides to make theta the subject of the formula, we have theta is equal to inverse sine of 0.951,020,4082. And that equals 71 degrees, 59 minutes and 35.9 seconds. And rounding that to the nearest degree, that equals 72 degrees. Part B. A farmer wants to put a fence around the triangle DOC. Find the length of fencing required. Give your answer in metres correct to 1 decimal place. From part A, angle COB is equal to 72 degrees, which means we can find the bearing of C from O, which is 72 degrees, plus the bearing of B from O, which is 150 degrees, and that equals 222 degrees. To find angle DOC, we can take the bearing of D and subtract from that the bearing of C. So 330 degrees minus 222 degrees is equal to 108 degrees. To find the perimeter of triangle DOC, we can apply the cosine rule to find length DC, since we have two known sides and the included angle. So by the cosine rule, DC squared is equal to 28 squared plus 31 squared minus 2 times 28 times 31 times cos of 108 degrees. Evaluating the right-hand side, we get DC squared is equal to 2,281.453502. And taking the square root of the right-hand side, DC is equal to 47.7645 and so on metres. And rounding this value to 1 decimal place, that equals 47.8 metres. The perimeter of triangle DOC is found by adding the three sides. So that's 31 metres plus 28 metres plus 47.8 metres, and that equals 106.8 metres, correct to 1 decimal place. Question 40. A table of future value interest factors for an annuity of $1 is shown. Simone deposits $1,000 into a savings account at the end of each year for 8 years. The interest rate for these 8 years is 0.75% per annum, compounded annually. After the 8th deposit, Simone stops making deposits but leaves the money in the savings account. The money in her savings account then earns an interest at 1.25% per annum, compounded annually for a further 2 years. Find the amount of money in Simone's savings account at the end of 10 years. The solution is split into two parts. In the first part, we'll determine the amount of money in the account at the end of 8 years using the table of future value interest factors. The result of which is fed into the second part of the solution, which uses the future value formula to find the value in the account at the end of 10 years. So in the first 8 years, there are 8 deposits made at 0.75% per annum compounded annually. So the correct future value interest factor is 8.2132. So row 8 and column 0.75%. So the amount of money at the end of 8 years is 8.2132 multiplied by 1,000, since that's the value of Simone's contribution, and that equals $8,213.20. Now, the amount of money at the end of 10 years, we have n equals 2, since it's 2 more years after the 8 years. The present value is taken from the result of the first part of the solution, which is $8,213.20. So that's how much Simone has in the account at the start of the 2 years where she's not making any deposits. And the interest rate per annum is 1.25%. So the future value is equal to $8,213.20 multiplied by 1 plus 1.25%, all raised to the power of 2. And that equals 8,419.8133 and so on. So rounding that to 2 decimal places, Simone will have $8,419.81 in her savings account at the end of 10 years. Question 41. In a particular city, the heights of adult females and the heights of adult males are each normally distributed. Information relating to 2 females from that city is given in Table 1. The means and standard deviations of adult females and males in centimetres are given in Table 2. A selected male is taller than 84% of the population of adult males in this city. By first labelling the normal distribution curve below with the heights of the 2 females given in Table 1, calculate the height of the selected male in centimetres, correct to 2 decimal places. By the empirical rule, a female of height 175 centimetres is 2 standard deviations above the mean, and a female of height 160.6 centimetres is 1 standard deviation below the mean. There are 3 standard deviations in between 160.6 and 175. The standard deviation of the female population, sigma f, is equal to 175 minus 160.6, so that's the difference between these 2 heights, divided by 3. So sigma f is equal to 4.8 centimetres. Mu f, or the mean of the female population, can be found by taking 160.6 and adding 1 standard deviation to that value. So 160.6 plus 4.8 is equal to 165.4 centimetres. Referring to Table 2, the mean of the male population is equal to 1.05 multiplied by 165.4, which equals 173.67 centimetres. And the standard deviation of the male population is equal to 1.1 multiplied by 4.8, which equals to 5.28 centimetres. By the empirical rule, a male taller than 84% of the population of adult males has a z-score of positive 1. Therefore, the height of the selected male is the mean of the male population plus 1 standard deviation, which equals 178.95 centimetres.